Let me ask you something right now, and I want you to feel it, not just hear it. How many times have you promised yourself that things would be different, that this time you'd follow through, that this year you'd finally change, and yet somehow you ended up right back where you started? Same frustrations, same habits, same emotional reactions, just a new calendar page. That's not because you're weak, and it's not because you're incapable. It's because human beings are creatures of pattern. And until the pattern changes, the outcome never will. Most people don't fail because they lack talent, intelligence, resources, or opportunity. They fail because they keep repeating the same patterns while secretly hoping life will somehow deliver a different result. Human beings are incredibly powerful, but they are also incredibly predictable. We wake up and run emotional and behavioral routines that were programmed years ago. We respond to stress the same way, handle fear the same way, avoid discomfort the same way, and then wonder why nothing changes. It's not that people don't want success, growth, or fulfillment. It's that they're loyal to familiar patterns even when those patterns are costing them everything. Think about it for a moment. Every outcome in your life is the result of a pattern. Your financial situation didn't appear overnight. Your confidence level didn't magically form. Your relationships, your health, your habits, your self-talk, all that was built through repetition. Small decisions made consistently become a lifestyle. Emotional reactions practiced daily become identity. And when people say they feel stuck, what they're really saying is that they re-trapped inside a pattern they've rehearsed so well that it feels permanent. The mind loves certainty more than happiness. It will choose what's familiar over what's empowering every single time, unless you consciously intervene. That's why people stay in situations they know aren't good for them. That's why they procrastinate, overthink, and sabotage opportunities right when things start to improve. The old pattern feels safe, even when it produces pain. The new pattern feels risky, even when it leads to growth. So most people don't change their behavior, they just change their excuses. Failure, then, isn't a lack of desire. It's a lack of interruption. People wait for motivation to strike, for confidence to magically appear, for fear to disappear. But motivation follows action, not the other way around. Confidence is built by keeping promises to yourself. Fear doesn't vanish, it loses power when you stop obeying it. The people who succeed aren't stronger than everyone else. They simply decided that repeating the old pattern was more painful than trying something new. Every breakthrough begins the same way, with a moment of awareness where you realize that if nothing changes inside you, nothing will change around you. That awareness can feel uncomfortable because it removes excuses, it hands you responsibility, but it also hands you power. Because the moment you recognize the pattern, you gain the ability to interrupt it. An interruption is the doorway to transformation. You don't need to overhaul your entire life in one day. You need to change one response, one habit, one decision at a time. When stress hits and you normally shut down, choose to lean in. When fear tells you to wait, choose to move. When your mind tells you you're not ready, choose to act anyway. These small pattern breaks compound into massive change. The outcome you want already exists on the other side of a different pattern, a pattern of courage, discipline, and conscious choice that starts the moment you decide you're done living on autopilot. Your life right now is not a coincidence, and it's not a mystery. It is a mirror. It reflects back the habits you've practiced, the decisions you've made, and the emotional patterns you've repeated day after day, year after year. Whether you like what you see or not, the image staring back at you is honest. Success leaves clues, but so does stagnation. Confidence leaves clues, but so does self-doubt. Your current reality is the accumulation of moments where you chose comfort over growth or courage over fear. Most people think their circumstances shape their emotions, but the truth runs much deeper. Your emotional patterns shape your decisions, and your decisions shape your destiny. If you consistently react with frustration, avoidance, or hesitation, your results will reflect that. If you consistently respond with discipline, focus, and resilience, your results will rise to meet that standard. Emotion is not something that just happens to you. It's something you rehearse. The way you handle pressure, rejection, uncertainty, and opportunity becomes wired into your nervous system until it feels automatic. Look closely at your daily habits. Not the big dramatic moments, but the small ones that seem insignificant. What you do when no one is watching. What you choose when you're tired, stressed, or overwhelmed. Those moments are shaping your future far more than your goals ever will. Goals set direction, but habits determine speed. You don't drift into excellence, and you don't stumble into mediocrity either. You practice your way into both. Decisions work the same way. Life is not defined by one massive choice, but by thousands of small decisions that compound over time. The decision to speak up or stay silent, to push forward or hit snooze, to invest in yourself or distract yourself. These choices may seem minor in the moment, but repetition turns them into identity. Eventually, you don't just make decisions, you become the person who makes them. And once a decision becomes identity, it runs your life until you challenge it. What makes this even more powerful is that many of these patterns were formed long before you consciously chose them. Past experiences, pain, conditioning, and environment all played a role. But awareness changes everything. The moment you realize that your present is shaped by rehearsed behavior, you reclaim control. You stop blaming circumstances and start upgrading responses. You understand that changing your future doesn't require a miracle. It requires a shift in what you practice daily. The most empowering truth is this: if your life is the result of patterns, then it can be redesigned by changing them. You are not stuck with who you've been. You are not defined by what you've done. You are defined by what you choose to practice next. Change doesn't begin with dramatic transformation. It begins with conscious repetition. When you change the way you think, the way you feel, and the way you decide in the moments that matter most, your life has no option but to reflect something new, because the mirror never lies and it always responds to what you consistently show it. Real change doesn't begin with motivation, inspiration, or even knowledge. It begins the moment you interrupt what feels normal. Most people wait for the perfect time to change, a moment when fear is gone, confidence is high, and conditions are ideal. That moment never comes. The comfort zone is seductive because it feels safe, predictable, and familiar, even when it is silently destroying potential. Growth, on the other hand, feels awkward, irritating, and uncomfortable because it demands that you act in ways you are not yet practiced in. Every meaningful transformation in life starts with disruption. Not chaos, but conscious interruption. It's the moment you notice yourself slipping into an old reaction and choose a different response. When stress hits and you normally shut down, but instead you breathe, focus, and take action. When fear tells you to avoid, but you step forward anyway. These moments don't feel heroic, they feel uncomfortable. But discomfort is not danger. Discomfort is evidence that you are breaking free from autopilot. The brain is wired to conserve energy and protect you from perceived threats. That's why it resists change, even positive change. New behaviors require more effort, more awareness, more emotional regulation. Old behaviors are efficient because they're familiar. So the mind will always try to pull you back to what it knows. If you don't consciously interrupt that pull, it will dictate your future. That's why awareness alone isn't enough. You can know exactly what's holding you back and still stay stuck if you don't act differently in the moment it matters. Empowerment is born in decision, not a vague wish, but a clear choice made under pressure. The strongest people aren't the ones who feel fearless, they're the ones who move forward despite fear. Courage is a muscle. It only grows when you use it. Each time you interrupt a limiting pattern, you strengthen a new one. Each time you choose growth over comfort, you expand your capacity. Over time, what once felt impossible becomes your new normal. The greatest trap is believing that change must be dramatic to be effective. In reality, small interruptions practiced consistently create massive transformation. One new habit, one disciplined response, one courageous conversation. These shifts compound. They reshape identity. You stop seeing yourself as someone who tries and start seeing yourself as someone who follows through. And identity is the most powerful force in human behavior. Uncomfortable doesn't mean wrong. In fact, discomfort is often the signal that you're on the edge of a breakthrough. Every skill you've ever mastered once felt clumsy. Every level of confidence you admire was once practiced under uncertainty. The question is not whether you will feel uncomfortable. The question is whether you will let discomfort stop you or shape you. The moment you stop waiting for permission, for certainty, for the perfect conditions, and start acting in alignment with who you want to become, everything shifts. You don't need to eliminate fear. You need to move with it. You don't need to feel ready. You need to decide. Real change begins the instant you choose discomfort with purpose over comfort with regret. And that choice, repeated daily, is what transforms potential into reality. Most people believe they need more time, more money, more connections, or more luck before their life can truly change. They tell themselves that once circumstances improve, once things slow down, once they feel more confident, then they'll finally step into the version of themselves they imagine. But the truth is, time doesn't create change. Alignment does. Opportunity doesn't create success. Clarity of pattern does. You don't rise because the world gives you permission. You rise when your daily behaviors match the future you're committed to creating. The problem isn't a lack of resources. It's a mismatch between who you say you want to be and the patterns you live by every day. You can want success with all your heart, but if your habits reflect hesitation, inconsistency, and self-doubt, your results will follow that pattern faithfully. Life doesn't reward intention. It responds to action. And action is always driven by identity. You don't act like who you want to be, you act like who you believe you are. This is why people can be incredibly intelligent and deeply passionate, yet remain stuck. Their behaviors are aligned with an old identity, an identity built on past experiences, past failures, and past limitations. Until that alignment changes, effort feels exhausting and progress feels temporary. You push forward for a while, then slide back into what's familiar, not because you're lazy, but because you're out of alignment with the person you're trying to become. True change happens when you stop asking for more and start choosing differently. You don't need more confidence to act. Confidence is the reward of action taken in uncertainty. You don't need more clarity to begin. Clarity comes from movement. You don't need more motivation. Motivation follows commitment. When you change the pattern of how you show up, life has no option but to meet you at that level. Alignment means your standards, habits, and emotional responses match your vision. It means you act with discipline even when you don't feel like it. It means you choose growth even when comfort is available. This isn't about perfection. It's about consistency. The smallest aligned actions, repeated daily, outperform the most passionate intentions that are never executed. The most powerful moment is when you realize that the future version of you is built in the present, not someday, not when conditions improve, right now. Every choice is a vote for the person you are becoming. Every time you delay, you reinforce the old pattern. Every time you act with purpose, you strengthen the new one. Identity is not something you discover, it's something you construct through behavior. You don't need luck when you have alignment. You don't need permission when you have commitment. When your actions match your vision, momentum becomes inevitable. The outside world may not change overnight, but you will. And when you change, your results follow. The breakthrough you're waiting for isn't outside of you. It's waiting on the other side of a new pattern that aligns your daily actions with the future you've already decided to claim. The moment you break a pattern, you take your power back. Most people don't realize how much control they've handed over to habit, emotion, and unconscious reaction. They live in response mode, reacting to life instead of directing it. When something doesn't go their way, they fall into familiar frustration. When fear shows up, they hesitate. When opportunity appears, they doubt themselves. These reactions feel automatic, but they are learned. And anything learned can be unlearned the moment you decide to respond differently. Control isn't about dominating circumstances. It's about mastering response. You may not control what happens to you, but you always control how you interpret it and what you do next. That's where momentum begins. Momentum is not luck or timing. Momentum is created when you take decisive action, especially when it's uncomfortable. The first action breaks inertia, the second builds confidence, the third creates belief. Before long, what once felt forced begins to feel natural. Most people wait for certainty before they move, but certainty is the result of movement, not the cause. When you break an old pattern, even in a small way, your brain starts collecting evidence that change is possible. That evidence fuels confidence. Confidence fuels action. Action fuels results. This upward spiral is available to anyone willing to interrupt the cycle of hesitation and self-doubt. Breaking patterns also reshapes identity. You stop seeing yourself as someone who hopes, wishes, and plans, and start seeing yourself as someone who acts. That shift is profound. Identity drives behavior far more powerfully than motivation ever could. Once you identify as someone who follows through, who handles pressure, who takes responsibility, your standards rise naturally. You no longer tolerate behaviors that keep you small because they no longer align with who you believe you are. With higher standards comes freedom. Freedom from old excuses, freedom from past limitations, freedom from the belief that your history defines your future. You begin to realize that every moment is a chance to reinforce the new pattern or fall back into the old one. Awareness sharpens. Choices become intentional. Life stops feeling like something that happens to you and starts feeling like something you actively shape. Changing the outcome doesn't require you to fight your past. It requires you to outgrow it. The past taught you patterns that once protected you, but may now be limiting you. Gratitude for the lesson doesn't mean loyalty to the behavior. You can honor where you've been without staying there. Growth is not rejection of the past, it's evolution beyond it. When you consistently choose new responses, new habits, and new standards, the future has no choice but to respond differently. Results don't change because you hope harder, they change because you show up differently. And the most powerful realization of all is this: you are not waiting for life to change. Life is waiting for you to break the pattern. The moment you do, momentum accelerates, confidence expands, and the future begins to bend in your favor in ways you never thought possible, because every breakthrough starts the same way, with one decision to no longer repeat what no longer serves you.